CNBC Africa's Nozi Pombanja spoke to Ashish Thakkar, founder of the Mara Group at the World Economic Forum, and asked him about attractive African markets. This is what he had to say.
Atlas Mara now has banks in 7 countries across Africa. We are kind of working on a lot on the technology side, on the front end and the back end, putting an intelligent layer of technology in. We're sticking and we're on track to create, be a positive disruptive force in line with public policy in the financial services sector on the continent.
Let's talk about the markets that have surprised you, maybe by just the receptiveness, and maybe if there are markets or economies that have surprised you by just maybe being a bit difficult to penetrate.
Do you know, you won't believe when Bob and I were actually came up with the concept of Atlas Mara, we always knew we would be welcomed to an extent by governments, by regulators, by targets that we want to get into, by talent and by investors. On all 5 of these fronts, we've been overwhelmed in terms of the response we've had. Every government has been super supportive. They've been so welcoming. They understand and appreciate the kind of value we can bring to the table. Bob with his global expertise and real passion for Africa, Mara's real expertise on the continent and passion for Africa. The combination is quite a strong one, and the team that we've been able to build over the last year, John Vitalo, who's our CEO, Arena McDonald, who's our CFO, Brad Gibbs, and the entire team. So we've been able to build an amazing team, get amazing institutional capital behind us, and being welcomed by all regulators and targets. We're actually overwhelmed.
So when we were in Gaborone, it was quite warm, very beautiful weather. We're in the snow this time around. What are you hoping to walk away from with at the end of this particular week?
Hence the 5 layers. But Bob and I are here together. We're obviously flying the African flags very high, making people realize that the perception versus reality, what we've achieved in just 1 year, we're still a year old. Yet we've been able to do so much. At the same time, just really kind of connecting with the right types of people, changing the narrative of Africa as a whole, and making people realize the real potential that's out there.
Of course, I'm sure you're also demystifying some of the myths that those who are not in Africa perhaps still hold. What's the biggest one that you think you're having to push against for investors standing on the outside looking in?
I think not only investors, even corporations who want to come onto the continent, I think, and the biggest issue has been this Ebola crisis. When you think about how the continent got generalized, yet only 3 of our countries are being affected, yet the entire continent gets scarred. The fact that Cape Town has had cancellations just shows you people's knowledge is so limited. So putting that narrative straight, making people realize that, listen, we're a continent, not a country. We're 54 countries, and only 3 of ours are affected, of which the 3 of them combined account to 0.8% of our continent's GDP. Yet the entire continent gets scarred for this. And it's our responsibility as the private sector to also put our voice behind this and make that difference.
Finally, Ashish, there's been a view that that Africa as the new growth frontier has somewhat been knocked off the spotlight pedestal here at WEF, and that the focus has gone to other more pressing issues. Has that been your experience from the conversations that you've been having over the last day or so?
Not at all. I think the contrary. I have seen so much more African representation. It's a shame, obviously, Nigeria's not here, but for obvious reasons, because of the elections coming up, so it's completely understandable. But other than that, we are here in full force. I mean, even the Africa Welcome reception was 4 times bigger than last year, right? So, I mean, it's a great sign that we are well represented. People do take us seriously. We have a seat at the table. Now it's our turn to actually make a difference with it.
Well, that was Ashish Thakkar, who is founder of the Mara Group.